Aarav came from a simple middle-class family. His father owned a small stationery shop, and his mother was a homemaker. Since childhood, he had always been a hardworking student. When he got admission to one of the most popular colleges in the city, his parents were proud of him. They believed this college would give him a better future. On the first day, Aarav woke up early, ironed his only formal shirt, and boarded a crowded bus to college. As soon as he entered the campus, he was amazed. Expensive cars, stylish students, large buildings, and groups of confident young people were everywhere. Everything looked different from the small world he had grown up in. When he entered his classroom, most students were already talking and laughing with each other. Some were speaking fluent English, while others were taking selfies and making videos. Aarav quietly walked to the last bench and sat alone. Later, the professor asked everyone to introduce themselves. When Aarav's turn came, he stood up nervously. His English was not perfect, and he struggled to speak confidently. A few students exchanged smiles and quietly laughed. Aarav quickly finished his introduction and sat down, feeling embarrassed. During lunch break, everyone gathered in groups and headed to the cafeteria. Aarav opened the lunchbox his mother had packed and sat alone under a tree. For the first time, he wondered whether he truly belonged in this college. But he had no idea that this place was about to change his life forever. The next few days were not easy for Aarav. He attended every class, took notes carefully, and returned home without talking to many people. Most students already had their own groups, and he often felt invisible. The project would count for a large part of the final grade. Students immediately started forming teams with their friends. Within a few minutes, almost everyone had a partner. Aarav looked around nervously. No one asked him to join. Just when he thought he would have to work alone, a voice came from behind. "Can I join your team?" Aarav looked up in surprise. It was Naina, the same girl everyone admired. For a moment, he thought she was joking, but she smiled and sat beside him. "I don't have a team either," she said. "Let's work together." The entire class looked shocked. Aarav could hardly believe what was happening. For the first time since joining college, someone had chosen him instead of ignoring him. And that small decision was about to change both of their lives. As Aarav and Naina started working together, they spent more time discussing the project. Naina noticed that Aarav always left college immediately after classes ended. One evening, she sent him a message about the project, but he didn't reply. The next day, she asked him why. Aarav hesitated. "It was nothing," he said. But the truth was different. Every evening after college, Aarav worked at a small restaurant near the bus station. He cleaned tables, served food, and worked until late at night. The money helped him pay for books and college expenses. One rainy evening, Naina accidentally saw him working. She was surprised. Most students in college spent evenings at cafes or shopping malls. Aarav spent his evenings carrying trays and washing dishes. When he noticed her, he felt embarrassed. But instead of laughing, Naina smiled. "You work really hard," she said. Aarav looked away. No one becomes successful without hard work. For the first time, Naina saw the real Aarav behind the quiet personality. Weeks passed, and the project brought Aarav and Naina closer. They spent hours in the library researching, preparing presentations, and helping each other understand difficult topics. Soon, they became good friends. People in the class started noticing. Some students were happy for them. Others were jealous. One afternoon, Aarav and Naina were sitting in the library when Naina suddenly asked, "Why do you always sit on the last bench?" Aarav laughed softly. "Because nobody notices the last bench." Naina shook her head. "I noticed." For a moment, neither of them spoke. Aarav smiled. It was probably the happiest moment he had experienced since joining college. But not everyone liked seeing them together. A student named Rishabh had liked Naina for a long time, and every day his jealousy was growing. The semester project competition finally arrived. The winning team would receive a scholarship and an internship opportunity. Aarav and Naina had worked harder than anyone else. They were confident. The night before the presentation, Aarav completed the final version of the project and saved it on his laptop. The next morning, he opened the file. His heart stopped. Everything was gone. The entire project had been deleted. Months of hard work had disappeared. Panic filled his mind. Naina was shocked. How is this possible? Aarav checked everything again. Then he noticed something strange. Someone had accessed his laptop late at night. Later that day, he learned the truth. Rishabh had secretly copied their work and submitted it under his own team's name. Aarav felt angry and helpless. The competition was only a few hours away. Without the project, they had no chance of winning. For the first time since joining college, Aarav felt like giving up. But Naina looked at him and said, "Listen, Aarav, we didn't work hard for months just to quit today." Her words gave him hope, and that was the moment when Aarav decided to fight back. Aarav felt completely broken after discovering that months of hard work had disappeared. The competition was only a few hours away, and everyone believed his team had no chance now. But Naina refused to give up. She reminded him of all the late nights they had spent working together. Slowly, Aarav regained his confidence. The two of them locked themselves inside an empty classroom and started rebuilding the presentation from memory. They worked without taking a break. By the time the competition started, they had created a shorter version of their original project. It was not perfect, but it was honest. As they walked toward the stage, Aarav was nervous. His hands were shaking. Naina smiled and said, "Just tell them the truth. That's enough." For the first time, Aarav believed he could still win. When Aarav and Naina stepped onto the stage, many students expected them to fail. Rishabh sat in the audience with a confident smile. He believed he had already won. Aarav took a deep breath and began speaking. Instead of reading from slides, he spoke from his heart. He explained how they had researched the project, the challenges they faced, and why their idea mattered. The judges listened carefully. The audience became silent. For the first time, people were not looking at Aarav as the quiet boy from the last bench. They were listening to him with respect. When the presentation ended, the hall exploded with applause. Even the professors looked impressed, and suddenly Rishabh's confidence began to disappear. After the presentations, one of the professors made an announcement. The college IT department had discovered unusual activity on the competition server. An investigation quickly revealed the truth. Rishabh had copied parts of Aarav and Naina's work and tried to erase evidence from Aarav's laptop. The entire hall was shocked. Rishabh tried to defend himself, but the proof was clear. The judges immediately disqualified his team. For a moment, complete silence filled the room. Then everyone turned toward Aarav. The same students who had ignored him on the first day were now applauding him. Aarav didn't feel happy about Rishabh's downfall. He only felt relieved that the truth had finally come out. That evening, the winners were announced. First place Aarav and Naina. The crowd erupted with cheers. Naina hugged Aarav in excitement. For a few seconds, Aarav couldn't believe what he was hearing. The boy who once sat alone under a tree was now standing on the stage holding the biggest trophy of the year. As he accepted the award, he looked into the audience. He remembered his parents, his father's small shop, his mother's lunchbox, his late-night job at the restaurant. Every sacrifice suddenly felt worth it. Tears filled his eyes as he smiled. This wasn't just a victory in a competition. It was a victory over every doubt he had ever carried. A few weeks later, college life returned to normal. But one thing had changed. Everyone knew Aarav's name. Students often asked him for advice and help with studies. The professors respected him. And most importantly, Aarav no longer felt invisible. One afternoon, he was sitting in the same classroom where everything had started. Naina looked at him and laughed. "You still sit on the last bench?" Aarav smiled. "Yes, but now I sit here by choice." Both of them laughed. As the class began, Aarav looked around the room. The place that once made him feel lonely had become a place full of memories. He finally understood something important. Success doesn't come from expensive clothes, popularity, or luck. It comes from hard work, patience, and believing in yourself when nobody else does. And that is how the last bench boy became the student everyone remembered.